What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to From the Bench. I'm your host, Will Meadows, and today is a Wednesday edition. Yes, we're usually Tuesday and Friday. It's been an incredibly long week. For those of you who follow the Instagram, you have seen. I'm sorry, I was not able to get anything out last week. I suffered a season-ending injury in my personal basketball career. Nothing to do with Tennessee here, but I'm a senior at Central High School, as some of you know. If you don't know, now you do. I play point guard over there, and I tore my ACL, my LCL, and my meniscus, so made sure I did it the right way. It's been a long week. I did it the night I was supposed to record an episode last week, and then had a doctor's appointment and everything else, and I was not able to get one out this past week, but we're here now. It's like a 10-day break. I hated doing it because I don't know if you guys realize this. I know some people close to me who also watch the show realize I love doing this. It's not like I just feel like I should be doing this to help me down the road, blah, blah, blah. I really enjoy doing this. So I hated being away from it. But I have been watching, unfortunately, Tennessee sports recently. We all know what happened last night with Kentucky, and we're going to dive into that and really how I feel about that game and things of that nature. We're also going to talk a tiny bit about football, a little bit about some transfers or a transfer. As we know, the Vols aren't that active in the portal as of yet. Hopefully, we're not done yet. I'm not going to say the class is complete because I hope it's not. We're going to talk about Omar, Lott, and Donte Thornton and pressing at the Senior Bowl and some teams that I'd like to see them go to in the NFL and where. Obviously, we got guys like James Pierce going first round for sure, but those are some later guys that I think really could be good in the NFL someday. Guys like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Joshua Palmer was just solid at Tennessee, and then he went on, and he's still really good for the Chargers. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but it's mainly going to be about basketball. As we all know, we're deep into basketball season. They've had two huge games as of late against Auburn and Kentucky, and we're going to talk about all of that and more today on this belated episode of From the Bench. But before we get into anything, make sure you guys are subscribed, like this video, and leave a comment about how you feel about last night's game against Kentucky. I know there's going to be a lot of opinions on that, and I'm here to share mine today. Make sure you guys are followed to all of the socials listed below. TikTok, we have a TikTok. It's the same thing, just From the Bench. Instagram, Facebook, X, you name it. We're on it. So let's just get right into it. Obviously, we saw what happened last night with the Vols. It wasn't pretty at all. Tennessee fell to the University of Kentucky, 78-73, the first time the Vols have played the Wildcats in the Mark Pope era. And they're also coming off of a loss at number 1 Auburn, which is never fun. It was a barn burner, one where we didn't shoot the ball well, we also didn't shoot the ball well against Kentucky last night. Officiating was this, that, and the other. A lot of people, you can say a lot of things. Tennessee had a lot of chances to win the game at Auburn, and they weren't able to come out with a win out there in Alabama. But last night was so ugly, man. That was one of the more embarrassing losses I think I've seen in a big game for Tennessee basketball in a while. Alabama, God, I've said just everybody but Kentucky. Kentucky was missing 3 players. Kirk Reese has been out for a while. Andrew Carr tried to give it a go, played about 2 minutes and wasn't able to play. And then their best player, Lamont Butler, their point guard who really runs the show over there and does it all for them, was not able to play, and they still found a way to win it. And credit to them. It's not all how bad Tennessee was, which it was a lot of that, which we're going to get into. But, those guys were 50% from the field. They were 50% from three-point land. They were on fire to start the second half. They just filled it up. They scored the most points a team has scored against Tennessee this year. So, credit to them. Igor Milicic had 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. He shot 60% from the field, one of his better games, especially against competition this high. He shot 50% from the three-point line. Chazanier, 15-4, was 3 of 10 from three-point land. Kind of bland for a guy. I'm just being honest. I know some people don't agree with that because it's Chaz. The last time we had a show, we took a deep dive into the game of how Chazanier plays the game and what I like and what I don't like about it. It's just kind of bland in my opinion. Zakai was not his best night, had 13, 4, and 6, but was 5 of 18 from the field and 1 of 11 from three-point land, which is just not going to get the job done. not a stat here, but Cade Phillips only played 8 minutes. You guys know how I feel about Cade Phillips. Didn't understand it, man. I mean, I really didn't. I think he should be playing a lot more, especially over guys like Dubar, because, I mean, Dubar was not very good, was kind of just shot chucking, was like 1 of 7 or 8 from 3 tonight. And, that was like the whole team. We were 11 of 45 from the three-point line, and you must be thinking, like, 45. Yes, 45. Like, that is an NBA number. And, yes, that's really high. It's the third most attempts in school history. Like, what are we doing? I mean, coming off of a game where we only hit, 2 threes? Like, I'm just not a fan of it. And the biggest thing, you shoot 45 threes, but it's a tight game down the stretch. The Vols didn't take a 2 in the last 4 minutes and 40 seconds of the game. What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, that's just not good at all. We scored 73 points on 72 attempts. It's just not good basketball. It's not winning basketball, especially in the SEC and especially against a team like Kentucky. Whether they're missing Lamont, Butler, Kirk Reese, I don't care if they're missing Kobe Barea. Whoever they're missing, you're not going to beat them playing like that at all. And, you've got Florida coming back to Knoxville. We obviously know what happened with them the first time, just laid the wood on us. Going to have to see some change here. I mean, it's going to be checkerboard in the Food City Center at Thompson Bowling Arena. There's got to be some change because I'm not saying – I just think that guys like Cade Phillips, should, yes, be playing more. But, I mean, Gainey and Darlin Stone-Dubar have got to play better because those two shot a combined, 3 of 17, from 3 of 15, 3 of 17 from the field last night against Kentucky. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. The offense, I talk about Chaz Lanier being bland. The offense as a whole is bland. It's just me being quite frank. It really scares me for March because this team, they struggle. I mean, I've never seen a team get so low or down in the shot clock like Tennessee does. We just can't find an opening. And it doesn't help that the only guy that can crash a defense is 5'7". And don't get me wrong, Zakai Ziegler is the best player on this team. He's one of the best point guards in the country. There's no doubt about it. Him shooting 1 of 11 last night does not change that. But, usually teams that have guys that get to the rim can finish really well at the rim. And Zakai Ziegler can. But it's harder for him. A lot of times you see him Steve Nash it, where he'll rip baseline and just keep his dribble. Most people try and go up with that. When you're 5'7", it's a lot harder. And we don't have anybody that can crash a defense that's not above 6 foot, which is just not it's not preferred in the SEC basketball. I mean, I could see, and I hate saying this, I really do, I could see this season going downhill quickly. I really could. I mean, I'm not overreacting either. I could see it being fine. Our defense is always going to keep us in games. And unless you have oh my goodness, I just stuttered like no other. Unless you have an occasion like tonight where a team like Kentucky just can't miss. But the SEC is loaded. It's not the year to have an offense that is not very good. And, offense is the way to win basketball games in this age of college basketball. Now, one positive I do want to bring on this show, and I hope you're watching because Felix, you've really flipped it around. Felix Acapara has gotten a lot better at basketball. He was very physical with Auburn. If you watch this show on a consistent basis, I would always say Felix struggled to be physical against the higher-esque teams. Like Illinois, he played 5 minutes. He just struggled to get physical and at an SEC caliber big level. And he's flipped the script. He's been better on offense. He's been better on defense. A lot of people, obviously he's an incredible shot blocker, but earlier on in the year, he'd have, 2 to 3 blocks, but he got pinned under the rim so often just because he wasn't getting physical, but now he is. So, going to clap it up here for Felix Acapara. He has gotten so much better just as the year has gone. So, and then, obviously, Igor has played better. Obviously, he just had probably his best game of the year, in my opinion, against Kentucky. The bigs are are being physical, and we need that. It was a very physical game at Auburn. I mean, it was physical last night. Just got to have more production from Chaz Lanier, in my opinion. You know, he has 15. You're like, oh, 15 points is pretty good. I just think it needs to be more, in my opinion. For as much as he's getting paid and as hyped up as he is, the guy has got to shoot the ball more, in my opinion. You've got Florida coming Saturday. You owe them one because they gave you one when they played a few weeks back in Gainesville. Florida is, the fifth-ranked team in the country, and those dudes are very good. So we're going to have to, our defense is going to be our defense. Obviously, it didn't keep us in the game the last time against Florida, but, they're at home. It's hard to beat a team twice. You got to get one, especially if you didn't get the one this week against Kentucky. Yes, it's the 12th-ranked team in the country. It's a rival. But, I mean, like I said, they were missing 3 very key players. So you got to bounce back. I mean, kind of at a loss of words just because, again, it's so disappointing to see that last night. There's just got to be a change. You got to attack the rim more. Somebody that's not Zakai Ziegler, because Zakai Ziegler has been playing his tail off the last few weeks, and it's got to be better, in my opinion. But, that's negative. Don't get me wrong. This basketball team is still good. There's no doubt about it. And I could see this team being deep into March. I'm not saying this season is just to waste. I know I did say that I could see it. It's not me saying that I'm going to predict it. But I'm just saying they've got to fix it quickly. With how loaded and good the SEC is, you're going to want to fix it quickly. That's all I'm going to say. It seems like a lot of things need to be fixed quickly. Just, sports in general right now for me. As some of y'all know, as you can see here, a Bills fan. Tennessee basketball is not going well. It's been a long week, everybody. The ACL has taken a toll on me. I can't walk. It's been a long week, but we're going to bounce back. It's only up from here. Tennessee's going to get a win on Saturday. I'm very confident in it. Speaking of wins, 2 winners at the Senior Bowl right now. I'm going to flip it to football here just for a little bit. 2 winners at the Senior Bowl have been Donte Thornton and Omar Norman Lott. Norman Lott is one of my favorite players from this past year's team. This team last year, Omar Norman Lott is one of my favorite players. I got to meet him when we stormed the field at Alabama. He's actually my wallpaper. I actually got a really cool picture with him that some photographer got of me and my buddy with Omar Norman Lott. So he's one of my favorite players on the team. Donte Thornton is actually my buddy's favorite player on the team. So they're doing really well at the Senior Bowl, which a guy like Joshua Palmer, like I was saying, showed out post-season and found his way on a good team into a good situation. That's really what you got to hope for in the later rounds of drafts, because obviously, like I said, a guy like James Pierce is going to go first round. He's one of the best edge talents in the class. And my opinion, I think James Pierce, after the combine, is also just going to shoot up even more. We all know the athlete he is and the speed he brings off the edge, and I think James Pierce is going to test very well at the combine. His arms are long, his hands are big, he runs fast. Everything you want at the combine, James Pierce checks the boxes. But like I was saying about Omar Norman Lott and Donte Thornton, they're impressing. I'd like to see Omar Norman Lott could be as soon as a second-round guy, in my opinion. Interior defensive line as a pass rusher, not as a run stopper, but as a pass rusher, he's up there, in my opinion, as a top 7 guy in the class, maybe top 5. Just as a pure pass rusher from the interior defensive line, he's up there, in my opinion. I could see him going second round to a team like the Bears, a team like the Bills, my Bills. That would be awesome. But teams that need interior rush, he could really just fill that hole for them. I think he could be a big steal on the second day of the draft. And then Donte Thornton, he's another guy that could really test well at the draft. We know he kind of glides. Those long strides, he moves quickly. And he could, if he can run a sub 4.4 or 4.4 sub 4.4, that guy could get drafted. His draft stock could go up because we all know he's 6'5". His hands improved from last year. His routes improved from last year. An okay run blocker. He could definitely shoot up the draft boards post-combine, like I'm saying James Pierce could. But obviously James Pierce, again, is a a bona fide first rounder. But a team that I could see James Pierce being on is really the Bengals, because the Bengals, I think that'd be a great place for him. It'd be a deep threat for Joe Burrow. It's looking like, T. Higgins could stay in Cincinnati. I could see him on a team like the Cowboys, who are kind of lacking a deep threat that Donte Thornton could bring. Jalen Tolbert and CeeDee Lamb, if you guys keep up with the NFL, they have some solid receiver talent, but they really need a deep threat guy, and Donte Thornton could bring that for them. Also, about football, interior offensive lineman Sam Pendleton committed from Notre Dame shortly after the national championship. Started 7 games for them. Big guy. Could start day one for us. So our offensive line, it's looking better. Lance Hurd is definitely going to have to make some progression this year, no doubt about it. David Sanders is going to start day one, in my opinion, and most people's opinion, I think. So you got Lance Hurd and David Sanders Jr. as your tackles. Again, like I said, Lance Hurd's going to have to make some progress. William Satterwhite is your center, former 4-star recruit. And then at the guards, you obviously have Karich from this past year, but Wendell Moe, transfer from Arizona, and then you have Sam Pendleton. And we like to have guys that rotate in and out, just like kind of Dane Davis did for us this past year. So can never have too much depth at the offensive line position, and that also, we have some guys still at Tennessee, so there's going to be some competition. I think the only 2 guys that are really set in stone, well, William Satterwhite was the only center left on the depth chart. And then obviously they could move somebody to center, but William Satterwhite's probably going to be the center for us. And then we're also going to have David Sanders and Lance Hurd. Lance Hurd's not going to lose that starting spot, in my opinion. Whether he was good or not, we didn't bring anybody in. I'd like to see us maybe bring one more tackle in just to compete with him. But David Sanders is a surefire starter. You don't pay an offensive tackle that much that's that size and that caliber of recruit to not play day one. It's kind of like Francis Magoa, if I'm saying that last name right, was one of those Polynesian guys that was kind of friends with Nico that committed on the 4th of July a couple years ago, and he was the number 1 offensive tackle in the country. We thought he was going to come here, ended up going to Miami, has started since the day he got on campus. I think it's going to be one of those situations for David Sanders, who is probably a first-round pick, in my opinion. Kind of reminds me a lot of Trey Smith, who is going to his 3rd Super Bowl in a row, unfortunately, as the Chiefs beat my Bills. I just keep bringing that up. I don't know why. I think it's going to get better for me. It stings. It stings a lot. But Trey Smith is another guy who I think could move around this offseason, obviously with the draft. I think he's a guy that could go to the Bears, like I just said with Omar Lott, or I could see him at the Patriots. After you win 3, you're not really worried about winning. You're worried about that money. And Trey Smith is going to make a lot of money this year. But I think it's going to wrap it up for this episode. Again, I hated taking those days off. I really did. I appreciate all the prayers. If you're watching this and you know me personally, I appreciate all the prayers and everybody reaching out to me, or people who reached out to the Instagram saying they were praying for me and wishing me a speedy recovery. I have surgery in 12 days. So February 10th, 12 days. I'm ready to get it going. I'm ready to start recovering. I'm supposed to go to the beach in 5 weeks out from my surgery. I'm just hoping to be off crutches there. I'm ready to start recovery. It's a 7 to 9 month recovery, they have told me. I'm going to hope to beat those odds and be done in 6. So I cannot stand sitting around. But thank you guys again for all the prayers. Thank you guys for watching this episode. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. And go Vols.